Well, here's a reading with Robin first. Months before it's out, months before you're going to get a chance to read it, I am so excited to have Jillian Cantor on to not talk about her brand new book, which is coming out in March of 2019, In Another Time. Jillian is the awesome author of, I've read all your books, Margot, The Hours Count, and The Lost Letter. I get so much attention whenever I post about Jillian's books or whenever somebody asks for a great book and I write, I know I tag you. I'm like, Jillian, read Jillian's book. I have never, ever heard of anybody who hasn't said, love her books, love her. She has a new book coming out. She's coming back to Rhode Island. Where is she going to be appearing? They love you. And, I mean, we had Jillian here last summer, summer before last summer. Wait, last summer. No.
Yeah.
A summer and a half ago.
2017.
2017. And I am looking forward to celebrating In Another Time with everybody. As soon as I think you left here, we were like, okay, love The Lost Letter. What are you working on? And got to see all these great pictures of Jillian working hard and animals on top of computers and all. Anyway, welcome to Reading with Robin, Jillian Cantor.
Thank you. That was so nice. Thank you. This just like made my whole week to hear you say all that.
I'm so glad. That's what we call a rambling introduction, which really I don't think that there's such a thing, but if there were such a thing as a rambling intro, you just got it. But, yeah, it was one of these moments where I just thought, I just finished this book. I can't wait to talk. Well, we're not going to really talk about the book, but I want to talk to Jillian now. And so glad that you could make the time to do this. And readers want to know what's coming up. It's like they just can't get enough. So put this one on your list. I've been posting about it. We have Benny peeking his little head around in a picture. It's In Another Time, and it is so fabulous. I just grabbed it as soon as it came. You're welcome. And you could see it looks pretty beat up. I had a good time with it. And I was so sad. I was like, satisfying, loved the whole, it was perfect. But, I was like, oh, I want another Jillian book.
I'm working on it.
Well, thank goodness. Well, I won't keep you that long then so you can get back to it. But visit JillianCantor.com for more information on Jillian's books. Read the whole collection. Don't miss any of them. And find her on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. So this must be your first interview, not about In Another Time. I'm so happy. This is my new concept. Speak to an author months and months before. But it actually does make sense because people pre-order the books. I mean, you can go online and pre-order In Another Time now, right?
Yes, you can pre-order. And it actually totally makes sense for me because I just finished the final pass reading through it, so it's fresh in my mind. And normally when a book comes out, I'm working on something else, and I have to think, wait, what was that book about again?
Right. I know sometimes readers are surprised to hear that, but you live with the book, in your head, on the paper, all the edits, all of this that goes on, and you've got a lot happening and, a lot of stories percolating.
Yeah.
You've got a whole history going on in there. So how do you remember? Do you reread the book before, when it comes out again?
Yeah, actually, I do normally read it or at least, look through it. I don't always reread the whole thing, but before it comes out or before I'm doing events, I'm usually asked to do readings. So I'll at least look through to find parts to read and kind of remind myself. When I really get into
I really like
trouble
this book. Oh, wow. You must get it. Sit down and go, oh, my God, this is so good.
Oh, no, usually I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. I really get myself into trouble with book clubs because sometimes they'll be reading 2 years later, and they'll ask me a very specific question, and I'll be like, wait, what happened?
Was that my book? Are you sure that was my book? And I'm speaking with Jillian Cantor. We're talking about her brand new book, which comes out in March, but you can pre-order it now and put it on your Goodreads list. It's called In Another Time, and you can visit JillianCantor.com for information about her other books, because this one's not up yet. This is fresh and new. This is like the new Reading with Robin. Let's interview an author way ahead, because I love the book so much. You may be the only one, I don't know. But it does, if you go to Jillian's site, it says, my next book, In Another Time, will be out on March 19th, 2019. So you can click right there and read more information about it. But if you love historical fiction and Jillian's books, you are in for a really big treat. It's really gorgeous. You can tell a little bit about the story. And the other thing I was going to ask you too is, if you were to blurb your own book, Bachelorette number 1, if you were to blurb your own book, what would you say about it? What's like a little elevator pitch?
Oh my goodness, I have trouble blurbing as it is, much less my own book. But I would say, I guess the elevator pitch for the book would be that it's a love story, and it's set half in Germany as Hitler's coming to power, and then half post-World War II, and it goes back and forth in narration between the man who is a Christian bookshop owner in Germany and the woman who is a violin prodigy, and sort of explores their love story and what happens to the relationship because of Hitler's rise to power. See, that was a bad elevator pitch. I need you.
No, it was great, because I was hearing the violin in my mind as you were talking about violin, because the violin is a love story right there. It's so gorgeous and memorable. The thing is, I remember all your books. That's really kind of incredible. They stand out in a sea of, a lot of books that take place around that time. There is just something about the passion between your characters and really feeling like I care about them and I know them really well. You really have that down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I remember after reading The Lost Letter, it was the same feeling, like, oh my God, I just love that. I can't wait to suggest this to people. And I'm chatting with Jillian Cantor. Her book, In Another Time, will be out in March, but you can pre-order it. You can read about it. You can go to JillianCantor.com. You can find her on Facebook. And you were mentioning about book clubs, because the book clubs eat up your books. I mean, they really do. And they ask very specific questions, which is so interesting to me. Like, I'm awful at a book club when people do that. And I was at a book club last week. They were picking their books going forward. And they were talking about, I don't remember whose book. I don't even remember which book, but really specific. And I was like, you got to be kidding. Don't pass. I don't know. Don't ask me. It was a book. I don't remember. I mean, when you read a lot, it's very hard to remember. And even like you're saying with your own book. Yeah, especially
if it's like a minor character or just a minor point. Sometimes 3 years later, it's hard to even remember specifically what someone's talking about. But I love book clubs. I love to Skype with book clubs. I have information on my website about that too.
Yeah, you can click, there's a tab for book clubs, and then you can fill in your information, and Jillian will Skype in with your book club. I always recommend that to readers. It's really a treat, and such a wonderful way to connect with book clubs on both sides, for the author to get feedback, for the book clubs to just make their evening even more special. And it's so doable. And, like we always joke, you only have to be partially dressed.
Right.
And,
you don't even have to put on real pants.
No. In fact, please don't put on real pants. That's even better. I've been Skyping into book clubs or FaceTiming in whatever just for 5 minutes to say hello, because I'm like, no, don't invite me to discuss the book. I've been at tables, which is fun, and you watch everybody doing really cool stuff and you're not there. But it's a really nice way to connect, and then certainly for an author, they'll read your books forever, and it's really memorable. And a lot of book clubs will, make food. Your books are so great for that, and just like real traditional, the foods that would be at that time, or foods that you mentioned in the book, and all of that. What would you cook for this if a book club was hosting for In Another Time? What would you want to see around the table?
Well, I feel like there's a few memorable scenes in the book where they're eating strudel, so there would definitely have to be strudel there.
Definitely have to
Apple
be strudel. Yeah.
And then the book ends up going around Europe a lot. She's in Paris, and she talks about the food in Paris. There would have to be French wine, maybe, and French cheese. And then, she's in Germany, Vienna. So I would probably do some German-themed food and some French-themed food, I think.
I think that sounds perfect. Strudel and some wine. I mean, really, what more do
there you go. Now you're making me hungry.
I'm already like envisioning strudel at when they do the book club for this, because I think that's really brings it to life, and everyone gets excited, and it's just it's a wonderful layer to enrich a book club. And if they're Skyping them with you and they're having their strudel, I mean, how much fun is that? So yeah, now I want some too.
Yeah.
So what was I going to ask you now? I like lost my train of thought. But was there music that you listened to while you were writing this book?
Well, music is a big part of the book, and I didn't listen to it all the time when I was writing, but when there were scenes where I needed a specific piece, I did kind of go. I spent a lot of time like listening to violinists play online and picking out, which piece I thought would be the best in which scene. So I wasn't listening to it the whole time I was writing, but I did spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos of violinists.
It filtered. Isn't that neat? Like as an author, when you need that information to be able to go there and just be looking up, whatever you're looking for, and feel inspired, and then maybe you put something else in the story that you come across, or you make it.
It was
take
a
left
great
instead
time
of a right.
waster too, and then I could tell myself that I was working. So
it becomes like such a time suck. I know, all in the name of research. What was the research for this book? I mean, and how did this? Where did the story start for you in your mind?
Yeah, so I guess the story kind of first started when I was at a symphony concert, like the week after the election in 2016, and I just was sitting there listening to the music, and I just thought to myself, no matter what happens in the world, we're still going to have this music. And I just had that thought, and I thought of this all of a sudden thought of Hannah's character, who in the book is a violinist who's Jewish in Germany. So I think that was sort of like the first root of the idea.
Well, that is really quite something, having any sense of hope after that election, and thinking,
I mean, I think
if nothing else, there will be music. So are you comparing the current presidency to the Nazi regime?
Well, I don't know that that's what I'm doing, but
I'm teasing you.
I actually, sort of the other, so that was sort of one kernel. The other kernel that came for the book was right around the same time I went to talk to this Holocaust survivors group about the lost letter. And so I was supposed to be talking to them about the book, but really they ended up talking to me, and I was much more interested in what they had to say. And there was one woman there who was talking about how she was German, and she refused to leave Germany after Hitler came to power. Her family refused to leave. And I feel like that's sort of something in my head that I never understood but always wanted to. Why didn't German people leave, when things got really bad? And she said to me, I was a German. Why should I have to leave Germany? And I think that that's really a big part of this book. It was sort of me exploring, why didn't people leave when they had the chance? And, what would I have done in that situation? And so it sort of came from those two kernels. But
that is fascinating. And then when you're sitting at the symphony, did you think, like, I know, there's that spark of, could you wait to get home and start writing, or were you writing in your head?
No, I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to write this. I was actually writing something else at the time, and I was like, I'm not going to write about this. But it stayed in my head, and so it's one of those things where I started just looking it up online a little bit when I was supposed to be doing something else, and I found a few stories about these, musicians who one way or another survived the war because of their music, and then became pretty famous concert violinists after the war. And so I was like, oh, there's something true here. And I don't want to give anything away about the book, but
no, this is a conversation that is not about In Another Time, but I read it and loved it, and it's out in March 19th, and I'm talking to Jillian Cantor. In Another Time we'll talk about the book. How's that? Not in this time.
No, but I mean, it was very much for me answering the question, what was it really like to live in Germany when Hitler was coming to power, and how did people go about their normal lives, and why didn't they leave?
Those are really big questions. So this woman that you met at the Holocaust survived, so where was she during the war? What happened? What was her story? Or does it ruin anything if I ask you that?
No, it doesn't ruin anything. I mean, She was taken to a camp, and her family was killed. And, and she's obviously much, much older now, but she, and I don't remember the specific details, but she just kept saying, we were Germans, we're still Germans.
Yeah.
And that really struck me because, and I think that's sort of a relevant feeling for today, too.
Yes, interesting. It's interesting how it's so relevant, how our past continues to be. We're reminded of it all the time, but there are such parallel situations and glimpses. Right, they were Germans. Like, why? I know, especially there. So that must have been quite a conversation with this group. And that was for the Lost Letter.
It was for the Lost Letter. I barely talked. It was really fascinating. I
can't imagine.
I kept asking them questions.
And I'm sure they were thrilled to talk to you.
They were great. Yeah, they were a really great group.
Because at the time of when there was no talking about this and really couldn't get survivors to speak, and, certainly for many years there's, such an importance of getting these stories out and how much time do we have to get them and all of this. Different also talking to somebody who's not their family. So I'm sure they were. You're not going to get a group like that to talk if they don't want to, so they must have really wanted to talk to you. Fascinating. I know you're going to have many incredible conversations when it's time to talk about In Another Time in the spring. But in the meantime, people can go and pre-order the book. Do not miss In Another Time or put it in your Goodreads. I'm not much on Goodreads. I have an account. There's a ton of messages waiting for me. I think I did the account because somebody asked me once to write a little something about a book, which I do rarely, but if I'm asked, I will do one for yours for sure. Because I don't like to write a lot. It's not me. I'd rather talk. If there was a little button that said talk on Goodreads, I would be all over it.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
Right? I like that. I don't know, it's not paralyzing, but it's not my go-to. So I put it off, and so, but for very special people, I will do it. So I will go and do it. But then I'll see all those notifications, and I'll be like, don't follow me there. Follow me on Reading with Robin. Follow me on Instagram, but please don't expect anything on Goodreads. It's just too much. So what are you reading? What are you loving right now?
So I just read The Wife yesterday by, I'm going to say her name wrong, Alifair Burke.
Oh, okay. I have that. I did not read it.
Really liked. It's so current. So current. It's about a woman whose husband is accused of rape, basically. And sort of like what unfolds, and it's a mystery, and it was super twisty. I read the whole thing yesterday. It was really good.
Oh, isn't that the best? Well, that's what I did with In Another Time. Aww. I just sat down and read it. But there's nothing like that, and just indulging in that.
That's my
time.
favorite Sunday afternoon, just having nothing else to do, being able to read a whole book. And actually, I just finished my Goodreads challenge. See, I am on Goodreads.
That's great. No, I'm definitely, I'm on there. You can, I do have one. Wait, so who wrote The Wife? I have to write this down.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to say her name
That's
wrong.
okay.
I'm going to look at my Goodreads. They have to reference it. It's Alifair Burke, I think.
Okay. I'm just looking now so I don't forget. I want to see if I do have this book. Yes. Okay. I can see the cover. I'm like, yeah. I have it.
Alifair Burke. It was good. It was really immersive and so current that I was like,
it looks really good.
This is like ripped from the headlines.
Ooh, it looks really good. Okay. The Wife. All right. That's good. All right, published. All right, it was out in January. Okay, I do have that book somewhere. So you are on Goodreads. So can fans find you there?
Yes, yep. Okay. And I finished my Goodreads challenge. I was so proud of myself. I mean, I set my goal pretty low. Last year it was at 30, and I just finished it. So I set it at 35 this year, and I finished it. So now I feel like
that's awesome.
I'm way
so
ahead.
What is that? You are ahead. What is the challenge? Like, how does that work?
You can just say how many books you want to read for the year, and you just challenge yourself to do it, and then you just add them. But I have to say about my Goodreads, I only add books that I like. So sometimes people will write me notes and say, why do you give everything 5 stars? If I read a book and I don't like it, I don't add it. That's why I only add books that I like.
Well, I'm with you, Jillian. I mean, I've heard the same thing reading with Robin, especially when I was on the radio. I mean, now, it's podcast, same show really, but when I was on the radio, people would say that. You like everything, and I'd say the same thing. I'm like, no, I absolutely don't, but I only talk about the books I love because why wouldn't I?
Right.
It doesn't even make any sense otherwise. Everything is, everybody likes something different, and if you come to Reading with Robin, I will share what I love. And that doesn't mean I don't love a book if I don't talk about it. Maybe I didn't read it, but I'm certainly not going to trash it. So
exactly.
You and I are on the same page.
Exactly. So if you want to see the books that I liked and I read, you can look at my Goodreads.
That's it. Go to Goodreads, and you can look up Jillian Cantor. People always want to know what the authors are reading. You were at the event in the summer of 17, and I would assume I must have asked the question because I always ask, and everybody is in the audience scribbling down titles.
Yeah.
As if they have nothing to read, but they, you don't want to miss, especially when an author is celebrating a book, and they are like, you must read this. And last summer, people were ordering. They were ordering from the audience, especially when I asked people for the phone, people were ordering. So Emily put a list together of the books that the authors were talking about.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we promised. We're like, we promise we'll send the list. And people were like, but what if you forget? And if Emily says she's going to do something, pretty much can count on that. So so people were there. They were ordering during the event, which was really, it was very bookish. It was a very bookish thing to do.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. More books. Anyway, this was so much fun. I love the discussion of not really the book discussion, but we don't spoil anything on the show ever anyway, but I just love this book so much, and I'm really excited that I get to talk to you about it before it's fresh in my mind, even though we're not talking about it, but you know that makes sense, and that I get to share it with the Reading with Robin crowd in another time. Jillian Cantor, all of Jillian's books. Somebody posted the other day, I think I tagged you, and they said, which one should I read first? And I was like, just read them. I don't know. Read them all. They're all wonderful. Margot, The Lost Letter, The Hours Count, and Now in Another Time, coming in March of 2019. Happy New Year to you and your family. Please tell everyone I said hi.
Yes, same from us.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, and I hope that we can talk about it in more detail in March.
Oh, we will. Okay. We will. I hope I remember, but I know I will, and we will absolutely do that. I will look forward to that. It'll be here before we know it. In Another Time, Jillian Cantor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.